This is a demonstration of how to add video to edX, which actually is quite easy if you have video that you're adding from YouTube. That's probably the easiest way, and when we are in a new unit, this video button here is largely designed to support YouTube embeds. So let's assume that we have a video on YouTube that we've either added ourselves or that is available out there on the public YouTube web. So by clicking this button, there's a generic video that's loaded here. I would come into this edit mode, and of course our first prompt there is to rename this with something a little bit more telling. So I'll name that. Next text box is asking for the default video URL. So if I'm over here in edX and I have a tutorial up, I really just need the URL for this. That usually is located under the share button. So when I click that, I can just grab very quickly. The default is just a shared link. Return to edX and replace what's there with that YouTube link. Hit save. And there's my particular YouTube video. Now I can't adjust the size. I cannot adjust the size of this video. This is just sort of how it's going to look. If you'd like a little more control, or your video's coming somewhere, say for example from Vimeo, you may have to use the HTML component to add your video. If your video was provided on, say, Vimeo, we would go into HTML and add text. And we're going to go ahead and essentially treat this as, let me close this. Here I am on Vimeo, and I've found a similar tutorial video. Perhaps I like it better. In its share box, if we just take this link, for example, and go back to edX and try to load that into a video player, put the URL there, it won't play. So again, not possible that way. But what we can do is return to Vimeo, and instead of this link, come down to the embed code. And I'll essentially copy that, come back to edX, toggle to HTML, and simply paste that code in. When I hit OK and save, it's a very nice display window. Let me go ahead and publish. If we refresh our display screen here, you can see the differences in the videos. So if you find this too large, you certainly could enjoy it being this size. If you didn't like this size, perhaps it was too small for you, you could arguably come into this HTML code and mess around with this height and this width. This just takes a little courage. And there's a much larger screen. So you certainly can adjust that if you'd like, but that's about as easy as it gets in terms of adding video. The other thing is, if you did not like this size screen and your video was coming from YouTube, you again would add an HTML component, text, and toggle into the HTML code. If I return to YouTube, instead of sharing, I would actually go to this embed and simply copy that code and return to edX, paste that in, and save. And it's a bit small, so you can always return to the HTML and play around with this height, width. And that's ultimately how you add video in edX.